Financial habits and outcomes are deeply intertwined with an individual's sense of identity. Many people experience cycles of trying various financial strategies, advice, or methods to improve their monetary situation. Despite occasional success, these improvements often fail to sustain over time. This recurring pattern suggests that focusing solely on external behaviors or results without addressing the underlying self-concept can limit long-term financial progress. The fundamental issue lies not in the lack of information or effort, but in the dissonance between one's financial identity and their goals. Human cognition strives for internal consistency, meaning that an individual's beliefs and self-image strongly influence their behavior and the outcomes they experience. When a person identifies themselves with scarcity, such as believing they are someone who struggles to pay bills or who is not meant to prosper, their subconscious mind resists changes that conflict with this self-concept. This resistance can cause financial gains to be temporary or fleeting, as internal doubts and limiting beliefs act as barriers to sustaining abundance. Even with increased income or improved budgeting, the internal narrative that revolves around financial struggle can manifest in behaviors that undo progress. Changing financial results without addressing the internal identity creates a misalignment that prevents lasting change. Identity encompasses the set of values, beliefs, and self-perceptions that guide decision-making unconsciously. If a person's identity remains rooted in scarcity, attempts to adopt wealth-building behaviors or improve financial habits may feel inconsistent or uncomfortable, reducing motivation and increasing the likelihood of reverting to past patterns. On the other hand, when individuals align their financial actions with a transformed sense of self, one that includes financial security, competence, and worthiness, their behaviors naturally adjust to support growth and stability. Understanding how financial identity shapes monetary behavior is crucial for effectively transforming one's financial reality. Traditional advice often emphasizes practical steps such as budgeting, saving, investing, or earning more income. While these elements are important, they may be insufficient without a foundational shift in how someone perceives themselves financially. To break free from cycles of inconsistent progress, individuals must engage in a process of internal change that redefines their financial identity from within. This process involves recognizing and challenging limiting beliefs, reconstructing self-images, and creating new psychological patterns that support financial success. This approach acknowledges the emotional and psychological dimensions of money management, which are frequently overlooked in conventional financial education. Emotional responses such as fear, guilt, shame, or inadequacy often underpin financial decisions and can sabotage efforts toward prosperity. Conversely, cultivating financial self-awareness and emotional clarity can empower individuals to make choices aligned with their new identity. Developing an internal narrative that supports abundance energizes proactive behaviors and encourages resilience in the face of setbacks. In this discussion, emphasis will be placed on how identity shapes financial outcomes and why sustainable wealth building requires reprogramming one's money-related self-concept. The exploration will cover the psychological mechanisms behind identity-based resistance to change, the role of subconscious money scripts, and the importance of coaching oneself through cognitive and emotional re-education. Practical strategies will be introduced for identifying and adjusting these internal patterns to foster a financial identity founded on abundance rather than scarcity. The objective is to provide clarity on why financial transformation is less about external tactics and more about internal evolution. By understanding the relationship between identity and behavior, individuals can begin to create meaningful, lasting shifts in their economic lives. This foundational work not only improves financial health, but also enhances overall well-being by reducing stress and increasing confidence around money. The insights shared will enable viewers to assess their current financial self-image and take deliberate steps toward constructing a new, empowering identity that supports sustainable prosperity. Beyond simply knowing what actions to take to improve one's monetary situation, a fundamental factor influencing economic outcomes lies in deeply rooted patterns of thought and emotion tied to personal valuation and perception. These ingrained views shape how individuals interpret opportunities and challenges related to money, often operating beneath conscious awareness. Recognizing that money management is not merely a skill set, but also an emotional and cognitive process opens new avenues for fostering lasting change. Notably, the way a person mentally frames their relationship with wealth can activate different motivational and behavioral responses. For example, individuals who view money as a scarce resource prone to disappearance may experience heightened anxiety around spending, leading to avoidance or overcautiousness. Conversely, those who perceive prosperity as attainable and stable tend to engage in more confident financial planning and investment decisions. This psychological framing influences not only choices, but also the likelihood of maintaining gains over time. Moreover, these mental frameworks often develop from accumulated life experiences and cultural conditioning, which contribute to automatic associations between money and emotional states such as security, fear, or worthiness. These associations can create unconscious patterns that manifest as repetitive behaviors, either constructive or self-limiting. For instance, someone with persistent concerns about financial insufficiency might repeatedly postpone important decisions, such as seeking pay raises or investing, despite rational awareness of potential benefits. Understanding these patterns allows for targeted interventions that disrupt automatic cycles. In addition to emotional conditioning, cognitive processes like confirmation bias and selective attention play critical roles in reinforcing existing economic attitudes. Confirmation bias leads individuals to selectively notice financial outcomes that align with their preconceived beliefs, while overlooking evidence that contradicts them. For example, a person convinced that money is hard to keep might focus on any monetary setbacks, magnifying their significance and ignoring periods of stability or growth. This cognitive filter perpetuates a sense of inevitability around scarcity and diminishes the motivation to pursue more ambitious goals. It is also important to consider the impact of societal and familial influences on monetary viewpoints. Social norms and family teachings often transmit implicit messages about wealth and success, shaping expectations and behaviors from early development onward. Such environmental factors can embed restrictive beliefs about one's capacity to hold or grow resources, establishing barriers that operate subconsciously. Being mindful of these influences enables individuals to critically assess inherited perspectives and selectively integrate only those that serve their current aspirations. To effectively change habitual money-related thought patterns, deliberate mental exercises designed to increase awareness and foster flexible thinking are essential. Mindfulness practices and cognitive restructuring techniques can help surface automatic judgments and replace them with more adaptive interpretations. For instance, journaling prompts that explore one's beliefs about worthiness or deservingness can reveal hidden biases that thwart financial progress. Engaging in such reflections encourages a shift from rigid, deficit-based thinking toward more fluid and empowering outlooks. Additionally, goal-setting processes must incorporate opportunities for repeated positive reinforcement to solidify new cognitive and emotional associations. Celebrating small wins and recognizing incremental improvements counteracts tendencies toward discouragement and supports sustained effort. This approach ensures that shifts in mindset translate into consistent behaviors that cumulatively enhance economic stability and growth. Understanding the neuropsychological underpinnings further illuminates why certain money-related behaviors recur despite conscious intention. Brain systems related to reward, habit formation, and stress response influence financial decision-making, often favoring familiar patterns for the sake of cognitive economy and emotional comfort. Awareness of these mechanisms motivates the use of strategic habit replacement rather than mere willpower, emphasizing gradual acclimatization to new routines that align with revised perceptions of abundance and competence. Therefore, transforming one's economic trajectory entails systematic identification and modification of deep-seated mental and emotional tendencies. Such a process benefits greatly from structured support, whether through coaching, therapy, or educational resources that focus on cognitive and effective aspects of resource management. The integration of psychological insights elevates traditional financial advice by addressing root causes rather than symptoms of stagnation or relapse. In summary, optimal management of personal monetary resources requires more than practical knowledge. It demands an intentional reshaping of the mental frameworks guiding perception and action. Recognizing how thought patterns, emotional conditioning, cognitive biases, and social influences intersect provides a comprehensive foundation for targeted change. Implementing cognitive flexibility exercises, leveraging neurobehavioral understanding, and fostering supportive feedback loops promotes sustainable improvements that transcend temporary adjustments. Ultimately, this deeper internal work paves the way for enduring advancement in managing and multiplying resources effectively. A crucial aspect often overlooked in transforming personal economic outcomes lies in understanding how deeply ingrained neural networks influence decision-making under conditions of uncertainty or stress. When individuals face financial challenges, the brain's inherent tendency is to favor familiar pathways, even if those patterns are counterproductive. This phenomenon originates from the brain's preference for energy efficiency, relying on established synaptic connections that require less cognitive effort. Consequently, efforts to adopt new fiscal behaviors frequently encounter resistance due to the brain's default to habitual responses. Furthermore, decision-making processes related to resource management are significantly affected by the interplay between the limbic system and the prefrontal cortex. The limbic system governs immediate reactions and impulses, whereas the prefrontal region mediates rational planning and delayed gratification. An imbalance favoring instinctual responses can result in choices that prioritize short-term relief over long-term stability, such as impulsive expenditures or avoidance of budget planning. Recognizing this neurobiological dynamic is essential for developing strategies that promote conscious regulation and strengthen executive control functions necessary for sustained monetary well-being. Additionally, social identity theory offers valuable insight into people's attachment to collective beliefs about wealth and status. Individuals often internalize cultural narratives about prosperity and scarcity that influence their engagement with money-generating activities. These collective scripts may include stigmas or privileges tied to economic class, occupational roles, or community expectations. Such social constructs can either facilitate access to resources and opportunities or impose invisible barriers through internalized limitations. Addressing these social dimensions involves critical reflection on inherited value systems and actively cultivating alternative frameworks that encourage equitable and growth-oriented mindsets. Another critical factor involves understanding the role of psychological safety in financial behavior change. People are more likely to experiment with new monetary practices when they feel secure from judgment or failure. Environments, whether internal mental states or external support systems, that reduce anxiety and shame create fertile ground for innovation and resilience. Establishing psychological safety can be accomplished through practices like self-compassion, peer accountability groups, or professional mentorship, each fostering an atmosphere conducive to trial, error, and eventual mastery. Moreover, the concept of symbolic interactionism can illuminate how individuals assign meaning to wealth beyond material utility. Money often functions as a symbol representing security, freedom, success, or personal worth. These symbolisms shape how one approaches earning, saving, and spending. For example, if money symbolizes control, an individual might adopt stringent tracking methods, but may also experience stress if those controls are challenged. Alternatively, if money represents opportunity, there may be greater willingness to take calculated risks for potential growth. Exploring and reshaping these symbolic meanings can transform financial attitudes and behaviors profoundly. The psychological principle of temporal discounting also plays a pivotal role in fiscal decision-making. This concept refers to the tendency to undervalue future rewards in favor of immediate gratification. It explains why saving for retirement or investing in education might seem less appealing than short-term spending, despite long-term benefits. Counteracting temporal discounting requires deliberate exercises to enhance future-oriented thinking, such as visualization techniques or the adoption of commitment devices that create accountability for deferred rewards. Resilience frameworks further contribute to financial behavioral change by emphasizing adaptability and recovery from setbacks. Economic progress is rarely linear, and the capacity to bounce back from losses or unexpected expenses distinguishes successful resource managers. Cultivating resilience entails developing emotional flexibility, problem-solving skills, and a growth mindset that views challenges as opportunities for learning rather than insurmountable failures. These qualities foster persistence and reduce the risk of abandonment following financial difficulties. Finally, integrating metacognitive awareness, the ability to observe and regulate one's own thought processes, enables heightened insight into monetary patterns. By stepping back to analyze how beliefs and impulses arise, individuals can intercept automatic reactions and introduce intentional perspectives. Techniques such as reflective journaling, cognitive diffusion, or mindfulness meditation enhance this self-regulatory capacity. Enhanced metacognitive skills allow for proactive adjustment of strategies and more deliberate cultivation of constructive economic habits. Collectively, these multidimensional factors underscore the complexity inherent in modifying personal financial trajectories. A comprehensive approach involves neuropsychological understanding, recognition of social influences, establishment of secure environments for change, analysis of symbolic frameworks, management of future bias, development of resilience, and enhancement of self-observation skills. Grounding financial behavior modification within this broader, integrative perspective ensures deeper, more sustainable transformation beyond superficial adjustments. Shifting an individual's relationship with resources at its core necessitates examining the underlying motivational drivers and psychological constructs that shape resource management patterns. One significant factor is the principle of locus of control, which refers to whether a person perceives outcomes as contingent on their own actions, internal locus, or external circumstances such as luck, fate, or other people, external locus. This perception profoundly impacts persistence, risk tolerance, and the approach to financial responsibilities. Individuals with a strong internal locus are more likely to take proactive steps to improve their monetary situation, accept accountability for challenges, and maintain consistent habits aligned with growth. Conversely, those with an external locus may feel powerless or resigned, attributing setbacks to forces beyond their influence, which diminishes motivation to alter behaviors. Furthermore, the interplay between self-efficacy and resource regulation is crucial. Self-efficacy represents one's confidence in their capacity to execute specific tasks needed for desired outcomes. When confidence in money management abilities is low, hesitation, avoidance, or reliance on others increases. Enhancing self-efficacy involves progressive skill building, setting achievable goals, acquiring knowledge, and celebrating incremental achievements. For example, mastering budgeting tools or negotiating financial terms can foster feelings of competence, resulting in increased engagement and sustained improvements. It is also beneficial to consider the role that mental framing plays in interpreting fiscal scenarios. Framing effects influence perceived value, risk, and opportunity by altering the context in which choices are presented. For instance, presenting a saving as losing an immediate luxury versus gaining future security can activate radically different responses. Reframing encourages reappraisal of situations, allowing individuals to overcome aversions and adopt constructive habits. Cognitive reframing techniques, often utilized in psychological interventions, can be deliberately applied to promote healthier perspectives about resource allocation, encouraging optimism and strategic thinking. Another dimension influencing resource behaviors arises from the complexity of temporal orientation, how individuals relate to past experiences and future possibilities in guiding current conduct. Individuals with a tendency toward past-focused orientation often carry forward unresolved feelings of scarcity or deprivation that shape present-day resource-related actions. Alternatively, those oriented toward the future may prioritize planning, deferred gratification, and investment in long-term stability. Interventions targeting temporal focus may involve exercises to anchor attention in progressive aspirations or reconcile previous hardships, facilitating a shift that supports better fiscal habits. Additionally, the integration of narrative psychology illuminates the significance of the stories people tell themselves about their relationship to wealth. Internal narratives act as frameworks for interpreting experiences and justifying behaviors. These narratives can either empower or constrict. For example, internal scripts such as, "I am incapable of financial success," or wealth comes at the cost of my principles limit the capacity to pursue beneficial opportunities. Modifying these narratives through therapeutic dialogue, journaling, or affirmations aids in establishing more constructive storylines that encourage growth and innovation. Moreover, the concept of mental accounting sheds light on how subjective categorization of funds affects spending and saving behavior. Mental accounting involves partitioning resources into distinct cognitive bins, such as monthly bills, entertainment, or emergency savings, which influences how freely money is allocated. While helpful for organization, rigid mental accounts can impede holistic financial optimization. For example, surplus funds confined mentally to fund money might be spent impulsively rather than redirected toward debt reduction. Awareness of these mental compartments enables individuals to restructure their frameworks to better align with overarching financial objectives. It is also imperative to address the influence of default options and choice architecture within the financial environment. Defaults refer to pre-selected options that the individual adopts unless actively changed. Since inertia often governs behavior in complex decision spaces, constructing supportive defaults can significantly improve positive resource management behaviors. Examples include automatic enrollment in retirement plans or preset transfer of funds to savings accounts. Recognizing and utilizing choice architecture principles can reduce cognitive burden and promote beneficial habits that maintain progress without constant conscious effort. Furthermore, examining how values and priorities intersect with resource utilization clarifies potential conflicts or congruencies in financial conduct. Values act as guiding principles that dictate what is considered important or worthwhile. Discrepancies between stated values, such as valuing security, family well-being, or personal development, and actual spending patterns may highlight areas requiring attention. Systematically identifying core values and aligning fiscal actions accordingly enhances coherence and fulfillment, reducing ambivalence and increasing satisfaction in managing monetary resources. In sum, advancing beyond surface-level adjustments necessitates engaging with multiple facets encompassing personality traits, mental constructs, and behavioral economics principles. Employing this multi-layered perspective supports the design of tailored strategies addressing unique profiles, facilitating durable adaptation in resource behavior. This approach ultimately empowers individuals to cultivate stability and growth by not only modifying external actions, but also transforming the fundamental frameworks guiding such actions. Effective modification of monetary behaviors requires attention to the influence of unconscious cognitive frameworks that determine the processing of financial information. These frameworks often operate beneath conscious thought, shaping interpretations of success, failure, risk, and opportunity. One such framework involves deeply held cognitive schemas, which are mental structures that organize knowledge and expectations about money. These schemas influence how incoming stimuli related to money are categorized and reacted to, often reinforcing habitual responses that align with prior experiences and beliefs. Reconfiguring these schemas necessitates deliberate cognitive restructuring methods designed to shift automatic evaluations toward more adaptive patterns. Additionally, the concept of neuroplasticity plays a pivotal role in facilitating enduring shifts in fiscal perspectives and practices. Neuroplasticity refers to the brain's capacity to reorganize and form new synaptic connections in response to learning and experiences. Engaging in consistent practice of novel financial behaviors effectively strengthens the neural circuits associated with those habits, reducing reliance on outdated or maladaptive monetary patterns. This neurobiological adaptability supports sustained transformation by embedding preferred behaviors into the individual's habitual repertoire. Another critical element involves addressing implicit biases related to socioeconomic status and wealth accumulation. Implicit biases are subconscious attitudes or stereotypes that influence judgments and actions. Individuals may unconsciously associate money with negative traits, such as greed or corruption, leading to internal conflict whenever personal economic advancement occurs. These biases can hinder motivation to seek improvement or cause self-sabotage when progress is made. Identifying and mitigating these subconscious attitudes requires introspection combined with external feedback mechanisms, such as coaching or group discussion. The role of motivation theories, specifically self-determination theory, provides additional insight into maintaining constructive monetary habits. Self-determination theory emphasizes the importance of intrinsic motivation based on autonomy, competence, and relatedness. Applying this framework to monetary behavior suggests that individuals are more likely to adopt and sustain prudent financial routines when they perceive these practices as self-chosen, effective, and connected to meaningful relationships or values. External motivators like social approval or material reward may initiate change, but internalized motivations foster endurance and personal satisfaction. Moreover, the impact of context-dependent learning must be acknowledged. Behaviors practiced in environments dissimilar from those where outcomes matter may not generalize effectively. For instance, establishing saving habits at home might fail to transfer when in social settings that prompt spontaneous spending. Designing environments that consistently cue desired monetary conduct enhances the likelihood that new behaviors will persist across settings. This can be accomplished by modifying physical spaces, digital interactions, or social networks to reinforce targeted financial habits. Cognitive load theory also contributes to understanding challenges in maintaining adaptive economic behaviors. Cognitive load refers to the total amount of mental effort required by working memory during task performance. When individuals experience chronic overload from complex financial tasks, competing life demands, or stressors, their capacity to implement planned monetary strategies diminishes. Simplification of financial processes, automation of payments or savings, and reduction of unnecessary decisions alleviate cognitive burden, facilitating clearer focus and more effective action. Furthermore, the role of feedback loops in behavioral regulation is significant. Positive feedback cycles, where successful monetary behaviors lead to rewarding outcomes and increased self-efficacy, promote repetition and refinement of these behaviors. Conversely, negative feedback loops involving setbacks or unreinforced efforts may lead to discouragement and regression. Implementing structured feedback mechanisms, such as regular progress reviews or financial coaching sessions, supports continuous adjustment and persistence in evolving effective money-related patterns. In parallel, temporal perception influences how individuals prioritize economic objectives. People vary in their psychological time orientation, meaning their attention to the present, past, or future differs. Those with a future-focused outlook tend to prioritize preparation and sustainability, whereas a present-focused orientation accentuates immediate needs and experiences. Tailoring financial planning approaches to align with an individual's temporal preferences enhances engagement and adherence by integrating motivational relevance. The incorporation of behavioral economics concepts, such as loss aversion and mental accounting, provides practical avenues to design interventions that resonate with human tendencies. Loss aversion, the tendency to prefer avoiding losses over acquiring equivalent gains, can be leveraged to encourage prudent spending and saving by framing financial decisions to highlight potential losses from inaction. Mental accounting, the subconscious division of finances into separate categories, influences judgment and choice, suggesting that reallocation strategies can guide better allocation of funds. Overall, the integration of cognitive science, neuroscience, motivational theory, and behavioral economics offers a comprehensive framework for understanding and facilitating durable enhancements in money-related conduct. These interdisciplinary perspectives underscore the importance of both internal mental architecture and external environmental factors, emphasizing targeted approaches to reorient thought processes, reduce mental strain, and create reinforcing systems that sustain positive monetary habits over extended periods. In further examining the factors influencing monetary behavior changes, it is essential to consider the significance of neurochemical processes that underlie motivation and reward assessment. Dopamine, a neurotransmitter linked to pleasure and reinforcement learning, plays a central part in how individuals pursue financial goals. When a financial action results in perceived success or gratification, dopamine release strengthens the association between that behavior and positive feelings, encouraging repetition. However, if the dopamine system becomes dysregulated through stress or negative experiences, motivation to engage in beneficial fiscal habits may diminish, necessitating strategies that restore optimal neurotransmitter function, such as adequate rest, nutrition, and stress reduction practices. Another noteworthy aspect involves the impact of executive functions on managing financial complexity. These higher-order cognitive skills, including planning, problem-solving, working memory, and cognitive flexibility, are vital for navigating multifaceted monetary tasks and adapting to unforeseen challenges. Compromised executive functioning, often due to exhaustion, anxiety, or overload, can impair the ability to organize budgets, track expenses, or implement saving strategies effectively. Improving these capacities through targeted cognitive training or mindfulness practices enhances capacity for sustained financial behavioral improvements. Examining cultural influences unveils how communal values and societal norms shape attitudes toward wealth accumulation and expenditure patterns. Distinct cultures place varying degrees of emphasis on individual achievement, familial obligation, or community sharing, which can manifest in differing priorities about money use. For instance, collectivist societies might prioritize resource pooling and mutual support, while individualistic contexts stress personal financial independence. Awareness of cultural frameworks enables one to critically assess inherited expectations and integrate approaches consistent with both personal goals and cultural identity. Additionally, the significance of environmental cues in shaping financial actions cannot be overstated. External surroundings, such as advertising, peer consumption behavior, or physical layouts of marketplaces, influence spending impulses and saving willingness. The constant exposure to marketing messages promoting consumption often triggers automatic purchasing decisions that compromise financial goals. Designing environments that reduce exposure to such triggers, for instance, limiting online shopping notifications or avoiding high-pressure sales venues, supports more deliberate fiscal conduct. Furthermore, the concept of habit stacking offers a practical mechanism to cultivate new economic routines by linking a desired behavior to an established one. This technique leverages existing neural pathways to create chains of actions, making initiation of new financial habits more seamless and less reliant on motivation. For example, attaching a daily expense log to an existing morning routine increases adherence and integrates the habit into daily life. This incremental approach fosters gradual, sustainable improvements in financial practices. Moreover, the application of behavioral nudges can subtly guide individuals toward beneficial fiscal choices without overt enforcement. Nudges may include default opt-ins for savings programs, reminders about upcoming bills, or simplified interfaces for financial apps. These design elements tap into cognitive tendencies like inertia and simplification preferences, reducing friction and facilitating compliance with positive monetary behaviors. The interplay between psychological stress and economic well-being also merits attention. Persistent psychological strain impairs cognitive processing and decision-making capacity, potentially leading to maladaptive financial behaviors such as impulsive spending or avoidance of money management tasks. Implementing stress management interventions, including relaxation techniques or therapy, can restore mental clarity essential for responsible economic conduct. Exploring time perception reveals how subjective experience of time influences goal pursuit and planning horizons. Individuals who perceive time expansively tend to engage in long-term financial planning and delayed gratification more readily. Conversely, those with a constricted temporal perspective may favor immediate usage of resources. Techniques that expand present-time awareness and emphasize future consequences, such as visualization exercises highlighting future benefits, can shift temporal outlooks to support prudent financial planning. In addition, research into narrative identity underscores how the integration of values, life events, and future aspirations into coherent self-stories affects perseverance and resilience in economic endeavors. Constructing a narrative that frames financial growth as part of one's evolving identity fosters consistency in behavior and adaptive responses to setbacks. This narrative coherence serves as a motivational anchor, promoting persistence toward fiscal milestones. Lastly, the influence of interpersonal relationships on fiscal habits warrants systematic consideration. Social networks can provide accountability, modeling behaviors, and emotional support, all of which significantly impact economic behavior patterns. Engaging with communities committed to financial growth, whether through educational groups or peer mentorship, establishes reinforcing social contexts conducive to positive monetary changes. Conversely, relationships that perpetuate scarcity mindsets or unhealthy spending may inhibit progress, highlighting the importance of intentional social environment curation. Exploring additional dimensions of financial transformation involves examining the influence of subconscious conditioning formed through repeated associations over time. Such conditioning frequently triggers automatic reactions toward resources without deliberate thought, often anchored in early experiences with scarcity or abundance. These conditioned responses can manifest in behaviors like unreflective spending, reluctance to negotiate financial terms, or avoidance of investment opportunities. Acknowledging the power of these automatic patterns enables targeted strategies aimed at disrupting ingrained habits through incremental behavioral adjustments that promote more adaptive responses to fiscal situations. Moreover, the socioeconomic environment plays a critical role in shaping attitudes toward resource management and perceived opportunities for economic advancement. Structural factors such as unequal access to education, employment prospects, or capital can instill a sense of limitation or possibility that profoundly affects financial engagement. Individuals embedded within communities facing systemic barriers may internalize collective expectations of economic struggle, which influences their approach to resource allocation and risk-taking. Interventions that consider these contextual realities foster empowerment by encouraging proactive navigation of available resources and enhancing resourcefulness in overcoming external constraints. Cognitive reframing techniques can be further enriched by incorporating values clarification processes. By identifying fundamental priorities and core principles that guide personal conduct, individuals can reorient financial strategies to reflect these authentic motivations. This approach not only strengthens commitment, but also reduces internal conflict arising from expenditure choices that previously felt incongruent with self-identity. For example, emphasizing sustainability may lead to more mindful consumption patterns, while prioritizing education can justify increased investment in skill development opportunities. Articulating clear value-based intentions provides a compass for consistent, purpose-driven financial behaviors. Another often underappreciated element involves the physiological state's impact on resource-related thinking. Research indicates that factors such as chronic sleep deprivation or poor nutrition can impair cognitive processing capabilities, including concentration, patience, and impulse control, which are crucial to effective monetary management. Physical well-being thus indirectly supports prudent fiscal behavior by maintaining optimal brain function and emotional regulation. Incorporating lifestyle modifications that promote health can create a foundation upon which support strategies for resource proficiency can thrive. The examination of risk perception reveals a complex interplay between psychological tendencies and environmental feedback. Risk tolerance varies widely, influenced by personality traits, past experiences, and cultural conditioning. Some individuals naturally seek novelty and accept higher uncertainty levels, leading to entrepreneurial ventures or speculative investments. Conversely, more risk-averse tendencies may manifest in conservative saving strategies and reluctance to explore alternative income sources. Understanding one's risk orientation facilitates tailoring solutions that optimize comfort and growth potential without imposing undue stress, thus enhancing sustainability. Additionally, cognitive dissonance theory describes the mental discomfort occurring when behaviors conflict with underlying beliefs or values. Financial inconsistencies, such as simultaneously valuing frugality while engaging in impulsive purchases, induce psychological tension that individuals strive to resolve, often by altering either actions or beliefs. Recognizing patterns of dissonance enables deliberate alignment efforts between monetary practices and personal convictions, promoting internal coherence that supports sustained habit change. Technological advances also offer transformative tools that influence financial management approaches. Automated applications and platforms provide opportunities for precision budgeting, real-time spending tracking, and customized financial advice. These tools can reduce cognitive load, increase transparency, and facilitate goal monitoring. However, Reliance on technology requires digital literacy and awareness of data privacy considerations. Integrating these resources effectively can augment behavioral interventions by providing consistent, accessible support and feedback. From a strategic perspective, goal-setting methodologies such as the implementation of SMART, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time-bound objectives improve focus and accountability. Breaking down broad financial aspirations into discrete, manageable steps reduces overwhelm and promotes gradual progress. Coupled with the use of visualization exercises centered on milestone attainment, these techniques enhance motivation by creating tangible markers of advancement, countering tendencies toward procrastination or discouragement. Furthermore, the influence of heuristics, mental shortcuts utilized in complex decision contexts, impacts resource-related judgments. While heuristics often expedite choices, they may also lead to biases such as overconfidence, availability, or anchoring effects. Awareness and critical evaluation of heuristic application enable refinement of decision quality, encouraging more deliberate assessments and avoiding costly errors stemming from intuitive shortcuts. Lastly, examining the concept of financial literacy through a multidimensional lens highlights the necessity of not only technical knowledge, but also critical thinking and adaptive application skills. Effective education programs incorporate scenario-based learning, interactive problem-solving, and personalized feedback, fostering deeper comprehension and practical competence. Enhancing these capabilities empowers individuals to navigate varied fiscal circumstances with agility and confidence, supporting enduring improvements in resource management practices. A critical factor influencing economic transformation involves the foundational role of self-concept clarity, which pertains to the degree of confidence and consistency individuals have in their beliefs about themselves in a given domain. A well-defined financial self-concept provides a stable platform from which to approach monetary matters confidently, reducing susceptibility to contradictory impulses or external pressures. Research indicates that higher clarity correlates with improved financial discipline, heightened goal persistence, and more deliberate planning behaviors. Conversely, fragmented or unstable self-perceptions often lead to indecision, inconsistent practices, and vulnerability to impulsive expenditures. Moreover, the construct of motivation regulation sheds light on the mechanisms through which individuals sustain efforts over time. This framework distinguishes between controlled motivation, driven by external rewards or avoidance of punishment, and autonomous motivation, characterized by internal values and personal endorsement of goals. Autonomous motivation tends to produce more enduring commitment to financial routines because it aligns with an individual's intrinsic priorities. Financial educators increasingly emphasize cultivating this self-determined motivation, recognizing its capacity to foster lasting behavioral adjustments that are internally anchored rather than externally contingent. The cognitive framework of mental contrasting offers another valuable perspective. This technique involves juxtaposing desired future outcomes with recognition of current obstacles, fostering realistic optimism and actionable planning. Applied to monetary objectives, mental contrasting helps clarify necessary steps and potential setbacks, reducing unrealistic expectations that often lead to discouragement. Empirical studies verify that this process enhances goal attainment by encouraging proactive identification and overcoming of barriers, thereby stabilizing behavioral intentions within a pragmatic context. Transitioning to somatic considerations, the body's physiological responses to stressors can substantially impact concentration and impulse control related to fiscal responsibilities. Chronic activation of the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal (HPA) axis, responsible for stress hormone secretion, impairs cognitive flexibility and working memory capacity. This impairment compromises abilities vital for complex planning, prioritization, and delay of gratification. Addressing physical health factors through techniques such as regulated breathing, progressive muscle relaxation, or structured physical activity can mitigate stress responses, thereby sharpening capacities that support sound economic judgment. Additionally, communication styles within personal networks affect financial behavior patterns significantly. Open, assertive communication enables individuals to negotiate shared financial goals, clarify expectations, and resolve conflicts constructively. Conversely, avoidance or aggressive interactions may foster misunderstandings, mistrust, or disengagement, undermining collaborative financial efforts such as joint budgeting or debt repayment strategies. Training in effective interpersonal communication skills has demonstrated efficacy in improving cooperation, which in turn facilitates more consistent management of collective resources. In the realm of cognitive psychology, the process of schema accommodation warrants attention. Unlike assimilation, where new information is integrated into existing mental models without major change, accommodation involves modifying core frameworks to incorporate discrepant information. Successful financial transformation often requires this deeper restructuring, as individuals confront evidence that challenges entrenched beliefs about their monetary capabilities or worthiness. Facilitating accommodation necessitates experiences that generate cognitive dissonance alongside supportive environments that encourage reevaluation and openness to change. In addition, environmental psychology highlights the influence of spatial organization on behavioral tendencies. Physical spaces arranged to support visibility, accessibility, and ease of use of financial tools encourage regular engagement in budgeting or savings activities. For example, positioning bank statements and budgeting planners in commonly frequented areas can serve as cues prompting routine review. Digital environments also benefit from intuitive interfaces and reminders, which reduce friction in implementing planned monetary actions. Furthermore, reflective journaling as an intervention enhances metacognitive awareness by encouraging examination of underlying assumptions, values, and habitual responses related to money. Systematic documentation of thoughts and feelings associated with financial events provides insights into patterns that might otherwise remain unnoticed. Over time, this practice fosters clarity, emotional distance, and strategic adjustment, serving as an effective complement to more directive educational approaches. Finally, integrating principles of behavioral activation into economic behavior change focuses on engaging in goal-congruent activities irrespective of fluctuating mood states. This model emphasizes action preceding motivation, suggesting that deliberate engagement in constructive tasks generates momentum and positive reinforcement that perpetuate continued efforts. This approach counters inertia and procrastination common in financial contexts by promoting a structured sequence of manageable steps that build competence and confidence incrementally. Understanding the interplay between internal self-perceptions and outward behaviors reveals the intricate nature of sustained financial transformation. When underlying self-concepts align congruently with intended actions, consistency emerges naturally, reducing friction in behavior change. This coherence fosters a feedback system where beliefs and conduct mutually reinforce one another, thereby stabilizing progress. Discrepancies, conversely, generate cognitive and motivational tensions that hinder perseverance and can precipitate regression into prior patterns. Attuning interventions to harmonize identity with practical routines is therefore essential to nurturing constructive habits that endure beyond initial implementation. Cognitive structures operate as fundamental frameworks that organize interpretations of economic inputs and guide responses. These mental models frame the meaning attributed to monetary events and frame expectations of possible outcomes. Adaptive modification of such frameworks requires not only the introduction of alternative perspectives, but also cultivation of flexibility, allowing integration of new information without destabilizing the overall sense of self. Achieving this equilibrium supports openness to opportunities while preserving psychological stability, which is critical for sustained engagement in growth-oriented financial behaviors. Physiological and neurobiological components underpinning attention, impulse regulation, and reward anticipation exert a significant role in shaping patterns of monetary conduct. The balance between immediate urges and long-term goals is mediated by brain circuits that optimize survival strategies but may conflict with complex modern economic objectives. Modulating these neural processes through intentional practice and environmental adjustments enhances capacity to execute planned, goal-consistent actions with reduced susceptibility to habitual impulses. This alignment between cognitive intentions and neurobehavioral substrates lays groundwork for reliable habit formation. Contextual and social dynamics contribute additional layers influencing conduct manifest in economic patterns. The prevailing norms, communicative exchanges, and situational cues within an individual's environment can either facilitate or obstruct the translation of internal shifts into external behaviors. Structured surroundings that reduce cognitive burdens and prompt desired practices increase likelihood of maintenance, while social support systems provide accountability and reinforcement essential for resilience against setbacks. Recognizing the systemic nature of behavior change enables targeted modifications in both internal mindset and external conditions to create reinforcing ecosystems conducive to development. Intrinsic motivation, grounded in personally meaningful aspirations and core values, underpins sustainable behavioral adoption. Engagement fueled by self-concordant reasons tends to manifest greater persistence and satisfaction than compliance driven by external contingencies. Thus, aligning financial goals with authentic priorities not only enhances determination, but also encourages adaptability when confronted with obstacles, reducing risk of abandonment. Internalizing these aspirations encourages ownership of the change process, making it more resilient to fluctuations in situational factors. Temporal perspectives shape prioritization and planning strategies essential for long-term improvement. A broad temporal lens allows anticipation of delayed benefits, facilitating trade-offs necessary in pursuit of enduring stability and growth. Cultivating future-oriented cognition strengthens the ability to defer immediate gratification, increasing readiness to invest effort and resources for cumulative gains. Training in temporal awareness serves to recalibrate time horizons, harmonizing immediate actions with expansive objectives. Metacognitive capabilities enable critical self-reflection about thought patterns and habitual tendencies, fostering conscious regulation. Elevating awareness about automatic responses to financial stimuli creates opportunities to intervene before unproductive habits fully manifest. Developing this higher-order cognition supports deliberate selection of alternate courses aligned with desired outcomes, promoting intentional navigation of economic challenges. Enhancement of these faculties contributes to sustained behavioral adjustments and improved adaptability. Collectively, these interdependent psychological, cognitive, neurobiological, social, and motivational dimensions converge to define the conditions facilitating profound and ongoing fiscal transformation. Interventions and strategies that thoughtfully integrate these aspects provide a comprehensive foundation from which consistent, identity-congruent financial practices can emerge and solidify. With a system attuned to balance internal perceptions and external realities, long-term advancement is attainable through persistent, measured evolution rather than superficial attempts that fail to address foundational elements. This framework sets the stage for understanding how intentional reconstruction of internal frameworks propagates meaningful, sustainable change. True transformation in financial well-being transcends superficial adjustments and technical strategies. It requires a fundamental evolution of one's inner framework, how an individual perceives their own capacity and relationship with money. This internal reconfiguration reshapes the mental, cognitive, and motivational landscapes that govern behavior, aligning identity with aspirational outcomes. Without this foundational shift, efforts to improve financial circumstances tend to falter, as persistent self-perceptions and subconscious barriers undermine outward progress. This understanding underscores that sustainable advancement emerges through an integrated process where cognition, belief systems, and environment interact synergistically. Cognitive flexibility, self-regulation, and future orientation are essential aspects of this systemic change. Through deliberate cultivation of these qualities, individuals gain the ability to reframe challenges, persist despite obstacles, and engage actively in shaping their economic trajectory. This internal alignment also fosters resilience, enabling adaptive responses to unexpected disruptions and avoiding reversion to previous ineffective patterns. Furthermore, intrinsic motivation anchored in personal values and meaningful aspirations fuels consistent engagement with financial objectives. When control over outcomes feels self-endorsed, individuals exhibit greater persistence and willingness to adjust strategies as needed. This ownership enhances the likelihood that new habits will be maintained, creating an enduring foundation for accumulating and sustaining wealth. Motivation driven by purposeful intent is more stable and less susceptible to fluctuations caused by external pressures or transient emotions. The role of environmental structure and social influences likewise must be acknowledged as critical determinants in this transformative process. Structural supports, ranging from physical settings that reduce cognitive obstacles to social networks that provide encouragement and accountability, create contexts conducive to change. Optimizing these external factors augments internal efforts, establishing a reinforcing loop where identity-affirming behavior is both supported and expected. This environmental scaffolding reduces friction, making adaptive behaviors more accessible and automatic. Neuropsychological mechanisms also contribute substantially by shaping impulse regulation and reward anticipation, affecting the consistency of beneficial patterns over time. Enhancing cognitive control and managing physiological states can improve adherence to constructive practices, reducing susceptibility to reactive impulses that detract from goals. Interventions that address these biological aspects complement cognitive and motivational strategies, generating a holistic framework for sustainable transformation. Ultimately, the interplay of internal belief systems, motivational dynamics, environmental conditions, and neurobiological factors constructs the architecture underpinning financial progress. This comprehensive perspective reveals that effective change is not simply about learning new techniques or pursuing isolated goals. It involves redefining one's financial identity from the inside out. Such redefinition shapes behavior naturally and consistently, producing results that endure beyond temporary success. By embracing this multidimensional approach, individuals can move beyond cyclical patterns of inconsistency and frustration to achieve a coherent and resilient mindset conducive to prosperity. This internal evolution constitutes the pivotal step distinguishing transient improvement from authentic, lasting growth. Understanding and implementing this paradigm enables a more profound interaction with economic realities, fostering empowerment and capacity that extend well beyond the realm of finances alone. In summary, cultivating a congruent and flexible financial self-identity, supported by aligned motivational forces, adaptive environments, and physiological regulation, establishes the necessary conditions for durable wealth-building behaviors. Change rooted in such comprehensive internal shifts is self-reinforcing, sustainable, and capable of withstanding external variability. Recognizing and engaging with these interrelated components equips individuals to transform their economic lives fundamentally and enduringly, highlighting that the cornerstone of true financial success lies within the continual shaping of identity and mindset.